Meantime, defense attorneys are already pushing for a mistrial. With me now to provide his perspective on this case is political analyst Quentin Giles. Quentin, thank you so much for coming back here on the Midday Jolt.
Thank you, Marcel, for having me. Always good to be here.
Yeah, a lot taking place with Kyle Rittenhouse taking the stand in his own defense. What stood out to you the most?
Yeah, I think the thing that stood out the most was it was probably a mistake for him to take the stand. Honestly, watching this trial, the defense had the momentum. The prosecution really had some lapses of judgment by not showcasing the holes in some of the other witnesses' stories and allowed the defense to have these gotcha moments, right? So they had the momentum, and Kyle taking the stand, I don't think helped him. Yeah, we got that emotional response that we're watching right now. Black Twitter seems to be questioning it because we saw no tears from this emotional response. But on the cross-examination from the prosecution, it sounded very rehearsed. It sounded unempathetic. It sounded as if he just knew he was going to get off. And so I think that actually hurt his case altogether.
Yeah, no, Quentin, actually, we want to replay that footage for our viewers that missed it yesterday. Let's take a look at that clip really quick.
I was cornered from in front of me with Mr. Zeminski, and there were
Again, I mean, can you respond to that again? What is your take on how jurors can respond to this video that's gotten hundreds and thousands of views already today?
Marcel, listen. I think, okay, as far as the jury goes, one could make an argument that they could have been empathetic with him, right? One could say, he was really moved. And we also saw, for those of us that were watching the court case, his mom also crying. Now, I'm not saying that her tears weren't real. She's about to potentially lose her son. So one could say that they probably did feel empathetic, but it doesn't hold water on cross. How are you so broken down when you're talking to your attorney about the events of that day? And then when the prosecution is essentially asking you the same questions and asking you about the things that you said on the stand to your attorney, you are rehearsed, you seem calculated, you all of a sudden can't remember anything. You remember everything about Dominic Black. I mean, I almost felt like Dominic Black was on trial, his friend. You remember calling him where Dominic Black was at every point of the day, but somehow you don't remember what you did, and somehow you were in fear for your life, but you had the long gun. So that's why I think it hurt him. He was doing well until the cross. And so I think the jury is going to see directly through that, I'll say emotional response. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, and of course, there's so many details that took place just 24 hours ago. Let's touch on some things that came to the forefront with this trial surrounding Rittenhouse's statements about being an EMT and reportedly not disclosing his age at the scene. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, he lied. That's what came out in court. The prosecution did a great job at pointing that out. He lied to people on the ground saying that he was an EMT. He chose to omit the fact that he was not 17 at the time. And really, it shows that he knows somewhere he knew he was not supposed to be there. No, and that he wasn't supposed to have that gun. So him prancing around, pretending to be an EMT, pretending to be on staff, or saying that he was on staff back in his hometown for the fire department, when it then came out that essentially all he was doing was helping out with the pancake breakfast and had a staff shirt, does not make you an EMT. So it really, I think, speaks to really the surroundings that he had himself, the group that he found himself in, thinking that he was law enforcement, thinking that he can take the law into his own hand. And shame on the police when we saw the video for almost congratulating him when he crossed the police line before he killed those people, saying, "Thank you for your service," or "Thank you for helping out." What do you mean? He's a citizen. He should not have been out there. So it's clear. It's clear where his thinking was, his privilege to think that he had the power to do so. I think all that just really came through.
Quentin, just insane details like you're mentioning. The judge also, let's touch about this. The judge in this case started out this trial by laying out the standard practice not to refer to the two men who died as victim, but ruled looters or rioters would be allowed. So what impact do you think has on this trial?
Yeah, I think that was a misstep from the judge. I think what the judge was trying to do was give the defendant a fair trial, which I always have to take a step back, right? Because I have my own personal opinions, but in this country, quote unquote, everyone is innocent until presumed guilty, right? And so I think what he was trying to do, I'm going to give him this good faith argument. He was trying to ensure that Kyle had a fair trial. However, we're seeing the judge, I mean, really, he almost seems like a defense attorney himself, interrupting the prosecution, comforting Kyle, making arguments on Kyle's behalf. It's coming off suspect at worst, honestly. And so I think the impact that has is he is the one that gets to frame how this is going to go. He will instruct the jury of the law. And as a jury member, you are looking to the judge to provide that guidance. So I do believe that it will skew the jury in a way to not see the victims as victims. But one would hope that the jury can see through all of that, and especially see through Kyle Rittenhouse's testimony.
Yeah, so much taking place. Again, analyst Quentin Giles, thank you so much for your perspective on this case. We appreciate having you here on the Midday Jolt.